Hey everybody, this is Franco, and this video is going to be about selecting tooling for the Mini-Lathe. If you've been watching my channel, you probably know that I sell CNC conversion kits for the 7-inch Mini-Lathes, and I have those available right now. And I've noticed that a lot of the questions that go along with the purchase of those CNC conversion kits seems to revolve around the tooling for the Mini-Lathe. And tooling is certainly a really important topic, because if you don't have good tooling, it doesn't matter how good your lathe is or how good your conversion kit is or how good of a machinist you are. If you don't have good tooling, you are going to have a difficult time making parts. So if you're interested in one of my kits, that's great. This will help. If you're not interested in one of the conversion kits and you just are you want to learn more about tooling, well, I think this video will still help you. Even if you're a manual machinist, you still need good tooling. All right, let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the quick change tool post set. Personally, I would not want to run a lathe without a quick change tool post set. If you're doing a CNC conversion, you really need to get one. And the reason is, if you're going to use more than one tool, you need a way to load it in and out of the lathe repeatably. So, in CNC mode, you're going to define all your tools, you're going to touch them all off, and then the idea is, as you're making parts, you can just quickly change the tools, and you don't need to retouch them off. They're preset and you're ready to go. You can make parts. You can make lots of parts. So, for the Mini-Lathe, you want to buy what's called an OXA quick change tool post set. So there's different sizes for these. Obviously, a bigger lathe is going to need a bigger tool post set. A lot of it has to do with the swing of the lathe or the center height of the lathe. And for the 7-inch mini lathes, the size that works well is called an OXA quick change tool post. Now, these are available on eBay. If you jump on eBay, you can buy an OXA tool post set. But here's the thing. The one thing you need to be aware of is the parting tool holder. Well, in fact, every parting tool holder I've seen with the OXA set sold on eBay, they are not the parting tool holder that will work well for your mini lathe. And now here's the thing. Most of these sets sold on eBay hold this parting tool at an angle, and what it does is it puts it at the center height, the effective cutting height of that parting tool will be too high for your mini lathe. So the only place that I've seen that sells the correct parting tool for the mini lathe is littlemachineshop.com. The part number that they sell it under is 3112. And what they do is, instead of the parting tool being held at an angle, it's held horizontally. It's perfectly parallel to the bed of the lathe. Gets the center height down where it needs to be to use it on the mini lathe. So yeah, if you buy an OXA set off of eBay, you're going to get it a little bit cheaper than what Little Machine Shop sells it for. But if you buy this set from littlemachineshop.com, the 3112, you're going to get the exact set that you need. Now, if you've mistakenly bought one off eBay and you don't have the right parting tool holder, not a big problem. You can still go back to littlemachineshop.com and just buy the horizontal style parting tool holder. But I would recommend just buying the set from littlemachineshop.com if you can. And one thing I'll say, we all want to get the best price for these types of things, right? We all want to save money. But the people at littlemachineshop.com, they've taken a lot of time to organize information and spec out the correct products. So I really appreciate that. And quite often I'll buy things from them, even though they're slightly more money, just because I see them kind of supporting the mini lathe hobbyist, machinist, DIY type of community. So I don't mind paying them a few extra dollars because I think it's worth it. The first cutting tool that we'll talk about is your parting blade. So if you ever feel that you're going to want to part something off, you're going to need one of these. If you don't think you're ever going to part, if you think you're only going to drill holes and turn, then maybe this isn't a big deal. But for the type of work that I do, I often need to part off, from bar stock. So what you want to look for, this is a 1/16 of an inch wide by a 1/2 inch high, a 4.5 inch long high-speed steel blade. And something that you want to pay attention to is the geometry here on the top of the blade. If you'll notice, it's curved, right? You'll see it's curved. A lot of these parting tools are just flat on top. What happens is while they're making the chip is going to be the exact same width as the cut. And it's easier for the chip to get caught up and jam up while you're doing cutting off and wreck your machine. So I like to always try to find the parting tools that have this little bit of geometry on the top. They help curl the chip, and you're less likely to have it, jam up while you're, parting off. So that's my bit of advice. Try to find a parting blade that has some geometry on the top. If you can't find one, if you can only find parting blades that are, flat on top, just be more careful. You may have to peck. You may have to go really slow. Just use oil and be very careful while you're parting off. Here is what might be your favorite tool for your mini lathe. It's an SCL CR 1010 H06 lathe turning tool holder. These are available on eBay and they're very reasonable in price, but you have to know what you're looking for. So this type of holder is 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters, so it's about a 3/8 by 3/8 square shank. It's about 4 inches long. This is a really good size tool holder for the mini lathe. A few years ago I couldn't find these things on eBay. It was really hard to find indexable carbide tool holders that worked in the small lathes, but I've noticed recently they're much easier to find and the prices are very reasonable. These will ship with a CCMT 060204 insert. And we'll talk a little bit more about the insert geometry here maybe in the next couple of slides. So for literally, I think it's less than $30. You get the tool holder and you get 10 inserts. That's a really good deal. It's hard to beat indexable carbide tooling. It makes your life much simpler. You can grind your own tools and you can use high-speed tools, high-speed steel tools. That's fine. It's probably good to know how to do that. But personally, I like to use indexable carbide. This will probably be your workhorse tool. This is probably the first tool you're going to grab if you just want to face off something or do some turning. And as I said, it's a 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter shank. This is a good size for the mini lathe. These will fit in those OXA quick change tool holders. Now, since we're on the topic of indexable carbide tooling, you really need to become familiar with the ISO insert nomenclature. So this is a standardized method for describing, turning insert geometry, and this is ISO, so it's a metric-based system. Now, there's also another system called the ANSI system, which describes inserts basically in increments of 1/64 of an inch. Many of the things you buy off eBay are going to be marked with the ISO system. You may see some that have both types of markings on them. It may have the ISO code and the ANSI code, but I prefer to speak in terms of the ISO code, and like I said, when you're shopping on eBay, that's more likely what you're going to find. And very quickly, here's an example. The first, see if I can get the highlighter. The first digit here, this is going to talk about the shape of the insert. We'll look at a different chart here in the next slide. Second, number 2 is the clearance angle. Number 3, this is the tolerance. So most of them that you buy are going to say M. So basically there's molded inserts and ground inserts. Most of the inserts you buy are going to be molded, and they're fine. Ground inserts are more accurate, but they cost a lot more money. The fourth digit is the insert type, and like I said, the chart will explain that a little bit. Now the 5th, 6th, and 7th, they kind of become a little bit more useful. The 5th digit is the cutting edge length, or I believe that's also the inscribed circle. Number 6 is the thickness of the insert, and then number 7 is probably the thing that's the most important. That is the nose radius. And when you're programming, a CNC machine, that's a really important piece of information, the nose radius. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this. Here is a nice chart that I found in the Mitsubishi catalog. It does a great job of graphically depicting the code here for your standard turning inserts. I can't really fit it on a slide with any kind of great detail, but what I'll do is I'll put a hyperlink in the description of this video so you can go check this out. And I think once you look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about here, how these codes work. All right, and as I mentioned before, the seventh digit is the tool nose radius. And when you're programming, a CNC machine, that's a pretty important piece of information. It's possibly the most important value, in terms of CAM software and programming. Larger tool nose radius, it may be stronger. It'll probably leave a better finish, but you do have more contact area with the larger radius insert, so you need to have a machine that's really, stiff. The bigger you go with the tool nose radius, the more rigidity you need. Now that's often an issue for the Mini-Lathe. The Mini-Lathe is a small machine. It's not, going to be rigid like an 8,000 pound, CNC machine that you may see in a factory. So smaller tool nose radii, they're weaker, but because there's less of a contact patch, you may find that they reduce chatter. So if you're trying to turn something and you're struggling to get a good finish, you may want to go to a tool with a smaller tool nose radius. And I often use, in my turning tool, I often use a CCMT 060202. So that would be 06, 02, and then 02 here for the tool nose radius. And if you look at that, what an 02 is, here you go. So it's 0.2 millimeters. So that's, if you do the conversion, that's like about an 8 thou tool nose radius. Works pretty well for me, and I do a lot of work with that and have fairly good results. So I just wanted to throw that out there so you can understand a little bit about tool nose radius and how it might be impacting the finish you get on your parts. Threading. If you plan on doing threading, you're going to need a good tool for that. You certainly can grind a piece of high-speed steel and make your own threading tool, but I've found that there are really good deals to be found on indexable carbide threading tools on eBay, and that's pretty much all I use now. So here is what is called an SER 1010H11 lathe threading tool holder. And once again, 1010, this is a 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter shank tool, fits in those OXA quick change tool post holders really well. When you look for these, many of them will ship with what's called an MMT 11ER AG60 insert. So they're trying to give you a good standard insert that works most of the time. It'll be a 60-degree profile, which is what most of your threads will be that you're going to cut. It's a right-handed tool. Usually you're going to be cutting right-handed threads. It's good for a variety of pitches, so it can cover 0.5 up to 1.5 millimeter, or that would be 48 to 16 threads per inch. So it's a very versatile tool, and like I said before, it's on a 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter holder, so it works well with those OXA quick change tool posts. And I think I have some more slides on this, so let's keep moving. Here is the code as described in the Mitsubishi catalog that describes the MMT style lay-down threading inserts. So it's worth looking at. When you're buying these on eBay, this will help you decipher what you're looking at. MMT 11, diameter of the inscribed circle. E is external. R, it's a right-hand tool. And Now the inserts I have say AG. I have a feeling they're A, and I think this is what they're doing. And then, here you have the 60-degree profile. So that tells you a lot about what that insert can do. Very versatile insert. And I get much better finishes using these indexable carbide inserts than I do when I grind my own high-speed steel tools. So I'm a big fan. This is one of my favorite tools. This is called an MG EHR 1010-1.5 lathe grooving tool holder. This tool will let you do grooving. It will also let you do parting. It ships with an MGMN 150-G insert. So this is a 1.5 millimeter or an 059 wide insert. So that's a good size for the mini lathe. Because the wider the insert, the more pressure you have, the more chatter you're going to have. This is about the smallest grooving / parting indexable insert I could find, and I've had really good experiences with this. I really like using it. This is a right-hand tool, 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter holder, fits in the OXA tool post really well. Now one thing that you have to keep in mind, when you put this on your lathe, you're going to be limited in the diameter of work that you can do because this sticks out quite a bit. So what I found is when I'm using this tool, I really my maximum working diameter is about 7/8 of an inch, 0.875. So that's the trade-off. But if you're only making small parts, this thing is great. I really like it. It has good geometry on the top of the insert. It breaks chips. When it gets dull, you can just swap out the insert. You get 2 edges per insert. With the high-speed steel blade, when it gets dull, you need to dress it. So every time you dress it up, you're changing its geometry. You need to reteach the tool or touch it off again. So this is a really nice tool. And it's rigid. You can do a little bit of side cutting with it, whereas a regular parting blade is not very strong when you're doing side cutting. You'll get chatter. You might break it. This tool has a little bit more rigidity, so you can plunge in, do a little bit of turning. It's a really nice tool. Here is the geometry for that tool, and once again, if you are a CNC programmer or you want to be a CNC programmer, this value right here is important. That's the radius. As we mentioned before, this is a 1.5 millimeter wide insert, so that's also very important. And like I said, these tools, I don't know if this is the exact same tool that's going to ship with, or the exact same insert that will ship with your tool, but almost all of them have some kind of geometry on them to help break the chip. That's a real advantage for a parting tool. If you're going to do any boring, obviously you're going to need a boring bar. And here again, here's a nice size tool. This is an SCL-CR. This is a 3/8 diameter boring bar. And if you buy a 3/8 diameter bar, this will fit in the boring bar holder that comes with your OXA tool post set. That tool holder will take a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch tool. I find with the mini lathe, you don't want to buy really big, gigantic tool holders, right? You want to go for the smaller stuff. So that's why I went with the 3/8. The one that I use is not this exact brand. I actually the brand is called Glands. I bought it from Grizzly. But these things are all over eBay. You can find them. And usually they will come with a CCMT style insert. And that is convenient because you can use the same insert that went in that SCL-CR 1010 H06 turning tool holder. So it's nice if you can use the same inserts, the same locking screws, the same wrench. It's just convenient. Drilling holes. Perhaps the most popular operation in all of machining is drilling holes. So you're definitely going to be drilling some holes on your mini lathe. Now you can load a drill bit into your tailstock and manually drill the holes, and honestly, that's what I do 9 times out of 10. Even when I'm in CNC mode, I I usually do my deep hole drilling manually, but I also have some drills that I hold in the quick change tool post holder, and this is how I do it. So you want to search for a Schar's 3/8 drill chuck, and this is good up to a 3/8 diameter drill. And when you're buying these, you get to pick what type of arbor you want. So if you pick the 1/2 inch arbor, this will slide into your boring bar holder that comes with your OXA tool post. I actually use this a lot when I'm doing center drilling, because I might want to really control the size of a chamfer. You know, I want every chamfer to be the same size in every part that I make. So I'll use this chuck to hold a center drill, and I'll produce the chamfer, and then after the program's over, I'll manually drill the hole with the tailstock. Drill bits. This is an important subject to cover. So when it comes to drill bits, you get what you pay for. And what I have found, you know, at most of the stores that you can shop at, you know, Home Depot, Harbor Freight, Lowe's, those types of places, if you see a drill bit set, you know, a big box of drill bits, kind of like what I have shown here, it's probably garbage, unless it's extremely expensive. So if you see a big box of drill bits like this and it only costs $60, they're probably garbage. Same thing goes for those, you know, you'll see little sets that have like, I don't know, like 24 different size drills in it, and you can buy it for $17. Those are garbage. They're okay if you're drilling wood, but they're not really high precision drill bits. So if you buy a set of those, you may struggle with them when you go to use them on your Mini-Lathe. So what I usually do is, rather than buy these, you know, big sets, I just look for the individually packed drills as I need them. So when I know I'm working on something, if I need a 1/4 inch drill bit, I just jump on eBay or I go to Home Depot and I look for an individually packed drill bit. So what I found is pretty much any drill bit that comes from Harbor Freight is garbage. But some brands that work okay, like Irwin, if you buy an individually packed Irwin drill bit, it's usually a pretty good drill bit. If you buy their multi-pack where you get like 24 drills for $15, it's probably going to be junk. But if you see the individually packed Irwin drill bits, they're okay. I've also found Vermont American is a brand that Home Depot carries, and they sell them individually packed, and I've had good experience with those also. On eBay, you can buy a lot of drill bits, and you pretty much get what you pay for. So, you know, for these small drill bits, you know, 1/4 inch and smaller, you may spend $3, $4, $5, $6 for a drill bit. You know, might seem like a lot of money for a drill bit, but you know, if you get a good one made out of good material with a good grind, you'll be able to make a lot of holes. You won't get frustrated. You'll hold size. You'll be really happy. These cheap sets, the material is, you know, it's cheap material. It's cheap tool steel. They're not ground very well. A lot of times, you know, you can look at them and you'll see the two lips are not the same. They drill oversized. They walk off center a little bit more. So I would recommend, you know, get yourself some good drill bits. Last but not least, we have the topic of center drills. You need to start your holes. You know, when you're using high-speed steel twist drills, you need to have a center drill or a start drill, something to pilot that hole. Otherwise, your drill bit's going to walk off and you won't be able to have an accurate hole. So I use center drills a lot, and I would recommend buying good quality tools. So here again, you get what you pay for. Jump on eBay, you know, sort by price, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But don't buy junk. You know, buy something good, because you're going to have these for a long time. They're going to last you a long time, and you know, you might as well just, you know, buy them once. You know, buy yourself a good set. I mean, naturally, if you drill a lot of holes, you're going to wear them out, but you know what I'm saying. Buy a good quality center drill. I recommend trying to use the smallest size that will work for your hole. You know, the bigger this diameter is here, you know, the more cutting pressure you're going to have when you start the hole, the more the tool's going to want to walk off. So I would recommend, you know, try to size your center drills accordingly. You know, for me, I use a lot of number 1, 2, and 3. So those are sizes that I probably use the most. Size 1, 2, and 3. And that's just because you're on the mini lathe, you're probably not drilling really big holes to begin with. And you can see your D2 dimension. You know, there's your sizes for your 1, 2, and 3 center drills. Now naturally, if you use a center drill with a really small D1 dimension, you know, you could break it off. But I've had good success with sizes 1, 2, and 3 in most of the materials that I'm using. All right, well, that's the end of the slideshow. I hope that was helpful. And, you know, once again, please be safe when you're working on your machining projects. And, you know, have fun. Try to go out and find yourself some good tooling. Having good tools really makes, you know, working on your projects a pleasure. When you have cheap tooling, it's really frustrating because you're going to have bad results and you may not understand why, and you might get, you know, frustrated. So just set yourself up for success. Try to buy some good tools, some indexable carbide, and that will make your life a lot easier. All right, thanks for watching. Have a great day.